What is going on, everybody? It's Luke here from Play Like a Jet. Thought we'd do a live today, breaking down some of the news, some of the talking points for the Jets over the last week. It's been a chaotic few days after the NFL draft, signing those guys up. Aaron Rodgers in the building, officially coming in for off-season program, which definitely would have ruffled some feathers in Green Bay. We've seen their reaction on Twitter over the last few days. Mekhi Becton made some stir overnight while I was sleeping, talking about being a left tackle. So let's break it down, all of it, because there's so much to digest and so many exciting things happening. Appreciate your speed, Doctor. Welcome into the chat. Thanks for being here with me, guys. I'll try and do one of these maybe once or twice a week, just answer some questions and choose some fat talking about Jets football. So let's start talking about Aaron Rodgers, because I have had enough of the Aaron Rodgers demand list narrative. Like, it is everywhere online. And honestly, I just think it is extremely old and extremely played out. Aaron Rodgers is one of the top 3 quarterbacks of all time, as far as talent, as far as accomplishments, 4 MVPs, all of that stuff. When he goes to a new football team, of course, the owner, the OC that he's worked with at a close level and has a great relationship with, in Nathaniel Hackett, Robert Saleh, they're going to listen to him on player evaluations. They're going to listen to Aaron Rodgers and bring in some of his guys, because that's how the NFL works. When Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, were there people saying, why is Rob Gronkowski going with Tom Brady? There wasn't. And that's because of the narrative that surrounded Aaron Rodgers and the kind of criticism and cynicism that's been there in the media over the last few years. As soon as Aaron Rodgers thinks it's not a bad idea to bring in Randall Cobb to be, wait for it, wide receiver 5 for the New York Jets, it's a huge issue. Or Turner to be possibly offensive tackle 4, that's a major issue. That's a breaking point for the Jets. We're going to ruin our team because we're bringing in low-cost, good character guys that have a great relationship with Aaron Rodgers. I just find it absolutely pathetic. Jeff Schwartz was one of the guys recently that came out and kind of ticked me off in this regard. He said, of course, Rodgers told the Jets some of the guys he'd like to play with. That feels like a very normal thing for a player like him to do. Rodgers denying that he had that list or that wish list by saying something like, oh, I never gave them a list, is just pathetic, lol. For me, that's just irritating, because Jeff Schwartz knows better than this. And this is the anti-Jets narrative that's in the media and surrounded Aaron Rodgers as well. So it's a pretty good fit here in New York. We know that Aaron Rodgers sat down and talked about these players, but there is a significant difference between a demand list and wanting some players that you have a great relationship with and bringing in vets on almost the minimum, like a guy like Randall Cobb is. He didn't say, I didn't give them a list. He sat down with Pat McAfee on that show and said, I didn't give them a demand list. Of course, I told them these are some players that I think are great free agent vets. They asked my opinion of them. I told them, and I'm always going to back my guys and speak highly of Randall Cobb. Any organization that didn't do that would be stupid not to. That was Aaron Rodgers' response, and it's completely fair. I am fed up with this narrative, slandering Aaron Rodgers, the Jets, the way we're doing it. There's nothing wrong with bringing in these guys. Speed Doctor says the national media is often lazy with their narratives. They like to paint Rodgers and the Jets as a villain, and that's right. And you know what? It's going to be a lot more enjoyable when we're winning games, we're making a playoff push, and Aaron Rodgers takes this franchise back to the playoffs. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on the Aaron Rodgers saga over the last few days. It's been irritating me no end. So appreciate you. C. Thompson says, love your film breakdowns. They're going to be coming thick and fast over the next few days. So stay tuned. Let me know if you have any ideas. Drop it in the comments. If you want videos looking at Mekhi Becton on the left side or looking at the corner room, some of the rookies from last season, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. Billy SBC says Brady brings Gronk to the Bucks, and nobody says it's a demand list. And that's 100% my issue here, is the inconsistencies with the media. Look, I get it. This is New York. This is Aaron Rodgers. But the inconsistency between what we saw around Brady and how that unfolded in Tampa to what we're seeing now is low-key ridiculous. And yeah, I think the media definitely hates the Jets. They're not big fans of Aaron Rodgers because they've kind of locked him out. He's now, given his rights to Pat McAfee, and we'll see how that goes. I want to pivot briefly, and I want to talk about Mekhi Becton. It's a big offseason for Mekhi. Obviously, on Tuesday my time, the Jets declined his 5th-year option. And interesting, because I think Mekhi's an extremely talented player, and I think the Jets would have loved to pick up his 5th year, but they weren't in a position to do so. And the main reason for that is because they were put in a hole. He hasn't been on the field for 2 years, and you just can't trust his health right now. He's come out, he's said in the media multiple times that he thinks he's a left tackle, and he kind of doubled down on that. I woke up early this morning, Australian time, and I saw Mekhi Becton tweet that I am a left tackle, and he deleted it since. Look, I like the fire for Mekhi Becton. I think his best football is at left tackle. I think he's a natural left tackle, and I think that's where he's going to excel in the NFL if he can stay healthy. The issue for Mekhi Becton is going to be the fact that the Jets have Dwayne Brown at left tackle right now. I am a big fan of starting your best 5 players. I think the Jets are in that position. I think the Jets' best 5 right now are probably Brown. I regret saying this, but Tomlinson, Tippmann, AVT, and Becton. So it's going to be fascinating how this plays out to see if they believe that Becton can be a left tackle, if Becton's happy to play right tackle. I just think it's going to be a fascinating offseason because Mekhi has played his cards. He's shown them to us. He thinks he's a left tackle only, and I'm not exactly sure how that's going to fit into the Jets' plans. Dwayne Brown is owed a lot of money, $11 million in 2023. He's played all but 2 snaps in his career at left tackle, so I think it's going to be a juggling act for the Jets. But Becton has said that he is a left tackle only. Speed Doctor says Becton will have a Pro Bowl year. The money is the best motivator. Also, he has a family to feed now. And that's right. Every player has a motivating factor. For Becton, I think it's going to be multifaceted. He wants to prove people wrong. You can see that about Mekhi. He's a dog. He works hard. He's a good dude. And he wants to show people that he can be healthy and he can be a high-level tackle in the NFL. And you're right. He's got that family to feed. We've all got our personal motivators, and that's a big one for Mekhi. Jay Long, appreciate you being with us. He says, can't wait for the season to start. I'm in the same boat. I'm so excited making these videos right now. I am juiced. Hopefully you guys are enjoying them. I try and keep them kind of 10 to 12 minutes. Making the Aaron Rodgers videos the last few days has just got my juices going, guys. Knowing that we're going from Zach Wilson, who I was a huge fan of coming out of college. I'm not going to hide from my evaluation of him. I absolutely love Zach Wilson, but he just didn't make it. He let us down in a lot of areas. We're going to have possibly the most talented quarterback in NFL history under center for us in September this year, and it's going to be absolutely freaking amazing. Ray, appreciate you supporting the channel as always. Absolute legend, has been with us since almost the start of Play Like a Jet, so appreciate you, Ray. Thanks for joining us in the chat. If you've got any question, guys, make sure you pop in the chat, you let us know. I'll try and answer as many as I can. We'll jump through them and we'll see what we can get through. So appreciate you joining us for Play Like a Jet Live. Barney Miller says Becton wants to play left tackle now because they're not picking up that 5th year. He needs to show he's a left, which gets much more money unless your quarterback's a lefty like a Tua Tagovailoa. And that's right. There is still this opinion with NFL teams that left tackle is more valuable. I think it's getting to a point where it's less of a differential between left and right tackle. I think that gap is definitely closing. But yeah, Becton now is chasing a big contract. He doesn't have the security of the 5th year option with the Jets. So I think you're right, Barney. I think he realizes it's an opportunity for him to try and go and get some money. Dwayne says, wish to stick him on AVT side because our run game will be dominant with those two paired up. Look, we were excited about this a year ago before Becton had the knee injury. Seeing AVT and Becton playing next to each other would be ridiculously fun. They are 2 of the best run blockers in the NFL. AVT played like a Pro Bowl / All-Pro caliber player last year. His ability to get out on pin pull looks and to be used on toss cracks, and those type of concepts. His fluidity in space is ridiculous for a guard. Becton's got that as well. He looks fit and lean. I think people forget about how good Mekhi Becton was in 2020 in his rookie season. He was phenomenal. Some of the tape against San Francisco and Bosa was ridiculous. So I'm excited to see how Mekhi kind of fits in and how that works. What do you think of Tomlinson, really? I didn't like his performance last year. His pass pro was terrible. Run blocking was average at best. When Tomlinson came here in free agency in 2022, I was amped about it because he was a high-level player. I thought he was a top 10 guard in the NFL and actually played quite well in games when Trent Brown was out for San Francisco. So I thought, okay, you're getting a guy who can still play at a high level without possibly the best left tackle at all time next to him. It did not eventuate last year, guys. I thought he was poor. The stats kind of looked after him. I think he only gave up 1 sack technically, but his pressure rate was high. He struggled to get movement and push in the run game. It's going to be interesting whether McGovern, who's here on a cheap, is going to be someone who pushes him for guard. Will they just start McGovern at center? Because I can see Dane possibly thinks that that Tippmann's a great option. I agree. I think Tippmann's a fantastic player. Do they start him from day one? Do they want to ease him in and play McGovern? It's fascinating on the interior there. So I'm not sure if Tomlinson will start, but I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it was. Barney does point out that, Tomlinson may have been injured or something like that. He could have been. He might have been injured. It might have been the money. Maybe you get paid, you relax a little bit. I'm not accusing him of that. I'm just saying there are factors with all these NFL players. But I definitely do think that Tomlinson regressed. And look, I think we should all be hoping that he bounces back. We should all be hoping that every single Jets player plays at the best of their ability. I don't want to ride these guys too hard, but yeah, I would say Lakin had a poor year last year. He's going to be looking to bounce back, and if he can, and then we get Mekhi coming back, and then you get a healthier Dwayne Brown, you get AVT returning, that's when you start to have an incredibly potent offensive line. And if the Jets regress to the mean as far as injuries, I think they can be a really formidable group up front. So we'll see how it goes. The group I want to talk about next is actually the group those guys block for, and that's the running back position, because we've got Breece Hall coming back from the injury. And Breece was potentially one of the best, most dynamic running backs in the NFL last year. He was phenomenal. But who's going to be the running back two for the Jets? Michael Carter in 2021 was fantastic. His ability to make people miss, to bounce at the second level, his wiggle short area quickness was phenomenal. Regressed last year, just like a guy like Lakin Tomlinson. Then you had the rookie, Bam came out, and I thought Bam Knight played really well, but then kind of got a little bit stale and wasn't able to continue his push down the stretch. Now we get Izzy Abanikanda, who comes out of Pitt, and he is a dynamic home run hitter. Like, he is Breece Hall light. He's got 4.41 speed. He ran quicker than that at the Pitt Pro Day, but I'm a little bit iffy on Pro Day times. And he's got the ability to be patient, to not outrun his blocks and then explode. He's got fantastic acceleration. He can put his foot in the ground and find that gear that a lot of people can't. So I'm interested to see how those touches are broken down for that running back group. And if the O-line is healthy, they are going to feast this year, because I think they're a really talented group. And I'm not surprised they drafted Izzy, because they want more of these players. Every coach rather, in this Shanahan type scheme, Nathaniel Hackett's not too far removed for it. They like, to go after the running back talent. And everyone goes, running back doesn't matter. This coaching tree believes that running back is an important position. Barney thinks Bam's the number two. Bam had a line not blocking for him. I completely agree with all of those things. There were definitely factors that played into Bam's regression late in the year, to Michael Carter having a really down season. I'm just interested to see how they're going to break up these touches and how the Jets backfield looks. Speed Doctor says, I have a great feeling Izzy will take that number two spot. His vision and decisiveness are incredible. Not sure he can block, though. Pass blocking was inconsistent on tape. If you haven't seen, I have an all 22 breakdown with some TV film up on Izzy Abanikanda, the running back out of Pitt that we drafted in the 5th round. For me, the best things about Izzy were the vision, the acceleration I mentioned, and then his ability to hit home runs. Against Tennessee, against Virginia Tech, his ability to run for 60-yard touchdowns was absolutely phenomenal. And it was all over the tape this season. He had 20 touchdowns in the ACC in 2022, and that is absolutely ridiculous. So JW's with me. He thinks Izzy's the clear number two right now. I'm not sure I say clear, but I think he has a great opportunity to come in and to get touches behind Breece Hall early. Breece, obviously, coming off the ACL. They've said everything's coming along pretty well, and he's healthy, but we'll see. Everyone talks about Hackett's new scheme, but he's worked with LaFleur. How different is it from last year? Is it from the same school? Look, it is. This is, I think, a good move from the Jets, because I didn't like Mike LaFleur, the coach and the communicator and the teacher. I think he left a lot to be desired in his communication with Mekhi Becton in 2020, with Denzel Mims at the start of that season as well, and after the food poisoning and everything there. I thought his communication with Zach Wilson was poor. I think he was a young offensive coordinator who wanted to be the smartest guy in the room, almost an Adam Gase type illness. And look, I'm probably being overcritical, but I just didn't think Mike LaFleur was ready to be an OC. I really didn't. And I think him taking a step back from being a play caller will be helpful for him in 2023. Hackett brings experience. He brings charisma. He brings runs on the board. And he's a guy who loves Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers loves him, and that's going to get him credit in the Jets locker room from day one, because number 8 is going to be the guy. He's going to be worshipped by the Jets locker room. Yes, the systems are similar, but that means you're keeping a lot of similar verbiage, a lot of similar rules, and you're not uprooting the offense for Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Becton, the young nucleus of this offense. So I like that they're similar, still West Coast in nature. You're going to get a lot of running out of shotgun, pin pulls, outside zone. That's kind of what to expect from the Jets offense under Nathaniel Hackett. What else have we got, guys? Tell me what else you want to talk about. Leroy says Hackett and Rodgers, a love story. It is. The way that Rodgers' eyes light up when he talks about Nathaniel Hackett is freaking hilarious, guys. You can tell he loves Coach Hack, as he calls him. Look, it's a football family. Chris Sims, who I like more than most, he's a huge Nathaniel Hackett guy. Knows the family really well, so they're a popular bunch in the football community. Ray says, Luke, like Coach Salah said, the best five will start. If we can get first-year Becton at left tackle, every Jets fan will support that. In order for us to make the playoffs, our O-line has to be solid. Completely agree. Got to play your best five. Mekhi's got to step up, and if we get a healthy Mekhi Becton who wants to prove a point, I think this line will be absolutely ridiculous. Speed Doctor says, Matt LaFleur looks like a good guy, but you can't give a rookie quarterback to a rookie OC. He was still experimenting on how to call a game. And Billy, we talked about the center position. Center was my biggest concern going into the draft. It was for me as well. A couple of days out, I could not believe that the Jets hadn't addressed the center position and also free safety. We'll get onto that later. They obviously brought in McGovern on a great deal. Look, guys, we might not love Connor McGovern. He was a top 10 center in the NFL last year. I'm not being hyperbolic. He was that level of player. He's coming back on a $1.8 million deal, I think it was, for 1 year. So you're effectively turning him into a backup. But he was a top 10 center last year. That gives you tremendous depth. The Jets had a guy like Dan Feeney as their number one interior backup last year. Look, amazing hair. Great job cheering on at the Rangers games and the Islanders games and wherever else he was. But he's just not a great football player. Connor McGovern on the interior as your backup, or Joe Tippmann, however they want to roll to get started, is a huge upgrade, and depth is so important. JW says Rodgers will bring the offense to another level. Look for Garrett to be a top 10 receiver this year. Let's talk a little bit about Garrett Wilson, because he was phenomenal last year. I wasn't the biggest Garrett fan coming out of college. I got it wrong. I got Jefferson wrong too. Guess what? It happens. Wide receiver is a difficult position to evaluate sometimes because there's so many factors and variables that goes into drafting them. Garrett Wilson was phenomenal. The way he beat man coverage last year was top 5 in the NFL. That's not an exaggeration. He was one of the 5 best wide receivers at beating man coverage last year. Take a look at the Buffalo film, the Vikings. He just tore it apart with Mike White and Zach Wilson at quarterback and had 1,100 yards. What are our expectations realistically for Garrett Wilson this year? With a healthier wide receiver room around him, you get Al Lazard, Corey Davis hopefully has some health, McCole Hardman Jr. to the mix. That's a huge upgrade over Berrios. It is freaking exciting to think what he could do anytime you get man coverage on the field. It's a huge down. Get the ball to Garrett Wilson. Feed that man the football, and you've got possibly the most talented quarterback of all time throwing him the ball. That is absolutely ridiculous. I think it's going to be just top 5, top 10 wide receiver level production from Garrett Wilson this year. Maybe I'm getting giddy and I'm getting ahead of myself, but I just think he's that caliber of player. Yeah, and he did. He did it with a statue, a bust, and a college football cast off, and Mark White with no rib cage. Garrett is a superstar. I think that's pretty much the reflection and the feeling shared among all Jets fans. That's the sentiment. Garrett Wilson is going to have a big season. I think we can expect him to have 1,400, 1,500 yards. And that sounds crazy because the Jets hadn't had a 1,000-yard receiver since 2015 when Decker and Marshall had it with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. But I think Rodgers is going to feed him the football this year. He talked about how he reminded him of another number 17 that he threw to, Devontae Adams, not a terrible player in today's NFL. So it's exciting to see Rodgers recognizing that talent and he wants to throw in the football. Max says, will Zach Wilson be the quarterback once again, Aaron Rodgers, after Aaron Rodgers retires? Sorry. It's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. I saw someone else mention this in the chat as well. Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson have a fantastic relationship. They started back in training camp a couple of years ago in 2021. Look, Zach Wilson was a tremendous talent, and I think the evaluation was correct from the Jets to take him at number 2 overall. He's got the relationship with Rodgers. We'll see how that unfolds. The issue is going to be that by the time Rodgers finishes here, likely Wilson will have his 5th-year option up. They're going to have to decline that. It gets very messy. We'll see. I don't think the Jets are concerned about that right now. Their focus is let's win in 2023, and hopefully they attack the roster and finish this thing off doing that. They missed on Fletcher Cox. Calais Campbell, also Orlando Brown. So they've had some big swings. I'm fascinated to see if Joe Douglas thinks there's a move left. Is it DeAndre Hopkins? Yeah, I understand that he had a body language video that said he didn't want to come to the Jets, but the Jets want to win now, and they haven't quite attacked the offseason like I thought they would once they got Rodgers. So we'll see what kind of happens next. Manschwitz says, Mike says, I'd love to trade for Baker. Definitely could happen. The Jets need an upgrade there. We talk about how they need to improve their secondary, and we'll see what happens there. Billy says, I wonder if the Jets will figure out a way for Rodgers not to take 65% of the snaps. Obviously, that's the trigger that gives them the first-round pick. Look, I think the Jets just think they will give up anything on earth if they can be a deep playoff team this year. The GM is in win-now mode. Joe Douglas had a great class last year, but he's under some pressure. If this doesn't work out and he missed on quarterback again, he's likely out the door. So this was a big year for Joe. I think that won't be a factor for the Jets. The Jets are just going to think, how can we win the division? That's going to be their question. Hader says, as per AR8, the New York Jets are now the House of Dragons, and our new motto, Fire and Blood. Let's go, Jets fighters. Look, it's exciting, guys. I mean, when's the last time we've had this optimism? I mean, I was pumped about Zach Wilson being a rookie, but that kind of plateaued very quickly after the New England game in 2021. Really, since 2015, you haven't had this kind of hope in the Jets building among the fandom, and it's absolutely sick. It's just awesome to have. Barney says, anyone know what happened to Ty Johnson? I know he was just a backup and a good guy. The Jets actually brought him back. Ty Johnson is back on the roster. They extended him, so he's here. Unless I'm making a terrible mistake, please correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but I'm relatively sure they brought Ty Johnson back on a deal, and he's actually with the Jets as well. A guy that I didn't love, but I thought took some steps forward last year. Dean Britton with a super chat. Dean, I appreciate you. Love the support for the channel is always loved, so thank you, guys. He says, watch how Jordan Love plays. If he performs, then Rodgers is a master tutor, and we should have some hope for Zach because Love was trash for 3 years. Look, that's a good point. We're going to see. Look, Aaron Rodgers' job with Jordan Love definitely wasn't to tutor him either. So I don't think we saw the best of his ability there because he was pretty insulted by the fact that the Green Bay Packers bought in Jordan Love and ended up okay. He won back-to-back MVPs. But I think having that pre-existing relationship with Zach, being later in his career, choosing the New York Jets and having that control over his career arc will help Aaron Rodgers. He's not threatened by Zach Wilson. Rodgers has been brought here to replace Wilson, not the other way around like we saw in Green Bay. So as Dean says, if that works out in Green Bay, you have to have a little hope that it can happen here in New York too. Dean, again, appreciate you. You're the man. So thanks for jumping on and helping us. Leroy says he was cut last week. So that's my bad. He was signed and then he was cut. I missed it. There's been a lot going on. I'm on holidays at the moment. I'm interstate, so appreciate you correcting me. But yeah, Ty Johnson not with the Jets anymore. Dwayne says it was after. Dane says it was after we got Izzy and then a non-football injury. So Ty Johnson no longer with the Jets. Let me correct myself there. Appreciate it. Ray says, Luke, I'm expecting a 60-40 split from Hackett, 60% of running plays to 40% of pass plays that will help Rodgers stay upright and keep the defense on their heels. It's fascinating because with analytics and PFF and EPA and all of these different statistics now, the pass is so valuable. And we understand this is a passing league. But I say it again, the teams that value the running game and establishing the run are the likes of Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. And some of these teams that you look at and go, well, they're doing okay for themselves. So it's fascinating to see what the breakdown's going to be. I think it'll be a little more pass heavy than that, but I don't expect the Jets to be suddenly a spread them out and throw it all over football team. Hackett still wants to establish the run. He's going to do it out of shotgun a lot. You're going to see possibly some 2-back sets with the stable the Jets have, and I'm interested to see how that plays out. I appreciate you guys with the super chat. Mike says, enjoy your channel also. The breakdown of film on play is very impressed. Guys, that's predominantly what I'm going to do. I've said it quite a lot of times. I don't want to be kind of the radio style host. It's not really my forte. I love interacting with you guys and doing these Q&As, but I don't just want to make content for the sake of it. The videos is going to kind of be the crux of what we do with this channel and the breakdowns. I'm going to try and get a video out every single day. There'll be some days I miss it, but you're going to see some stuff coming up on Aaron Rodgers. I've got a feature video coming up on how he affects the Jets in the red zone. So that's going to be really cool, I think, because the Jets were terrible. in the red zone. That's with Mike White at quarterback, with Zach Wilson. It didn't matter. Jets were woeful. So I've got a video coming up on Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to try and get another one up on Izzy once I get some more All-22 film, looking at some of the other picks like Zaire, the kid out of Western Michigan, the linebacker. Get an All-22 video up on him. So there's a ton of stuff coming. So I appreciate you, Mike, again. Thanks for the super chat, and there's going to be plenty more coming. Guys, I'll probably be on for another 5 minutes, then I'm going to pop off and do a few other things. Jet Up New York says they bring back Butterfingers, catch nothing Davis, keep Lawson, and trade Q because JD doesn't pay any first-round picks. Look, they're going to pay Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams is my guy. If you go back to 2019, my Twitter account is just me screaming about how good Quinnen Williams is, and I hope the Jets draft him. They did. The Jets were waiting for the market to be set. To be fair, Nicole, his agent, who is heavily involved with Clutch, she's now the head of the NFL. She was obviously waiting for those guys like Simmons to be paid and Lawrence. And look, I wish it was done like you guys. I think it should have been done. There's no need to wait. Pay him $25 million a year and let's move on with it. That was always going to be the market. It's been set up now. It's going to come. He's going to get paid. As far as the other two, interesting. Sulla has pretty much guaranteed Corey Davis is on the roster. Him coming out again, I think it was yesterday, and saying Corey Davis will be on this football team, that was a definitive statement for me. He liked his size at wide receiver, and I get it. You want depth. If the Jets took JSN at 15, I think we're having a very different discussion. But the fact that they didn't take Kincaid, they didn't go a pass catcher realistically until the 7th with Zach Kuntz, I think that says that Davis will be on this roster. And as far as Lawson, look, maybe there's a restructure there. I'm not really sure. I was a little bit surprised if they keep him on the roster for what he's being paid right now, which is about $14 million in 2023, I believe, the cap hit. But Lawson's coming off the Achilles injury. He had a second surgery. We'll see if he can get healthy. They've got an extremely deep edge room, and it's pretty exciting. So we will see how that comes. Again, Anthony says Ty was cut right before the draft. Apologies for missing that one. Billy says it'll be interesting to see how the Jets use Will McDonald the 4th as a pass rusher. Guys, if you haven't seen my videos up on Will McDonald, check it out. I've got 2 up on him. Here's the skinny. He's going to be brought off the edge as a wide 9 technique on the weak side defensive end. That means away from the strength of the formation for the offense, so away from the tight ends, to try and get him as many one-on-one isolated matchups as a pass rusher. I think he'll get 35 to 40% of snaps, which is more than Johnson and more than Clemens got last year, but still less than a Carl Lawson. I think they'll want him to be a situational pass rusher, but also start working him in on 3 downs, but not put too much on his plate. He was used as this weird 3-3 lineman 4-eye technique in Matt Campbell's defense. They're going to want to get away from that. They're going to put him in the wide 9, like Robert Sellers said on the phone call to him after the draft. So fascinated to see how the usage is, but it's going to be pin your ears back, go and get the quarterback. I'd say he's got the best bend and natural fluidity of any pass rusher in the draft, and I'm excited to see how he goes. Leroy says Reed should get a raise at cornerback. Look, DJ was awesome last year. No one could have expected that. Sulla came out and said we got it wrong in San Francisco playing him in the slot. And boy, did he respond. He was fantastic on the outside last year. DJ was awesome. And I'm pretty sure he's getting paid pretty handsomely. He's a really good player. Dane says we just need to extremely trim down Conklin's role. Guy has mental lapses and stone hands that just kill the start of drives. He did drop a lot of balls last year. He had some fumbles, which was surprising because he didn't really show that on tape in Minnesota. The Jets have a deep tight end room. I think Rocket will get some more looks this year. He got some H-back type blocking roles last year. The Jets like to run fullbacks. We'll see how that looks with Hackett, though. Probably a little bit more out of shotgun, so you may not see that type of utilization as much. And then we're going to see what Zach Kuntz can do. Again, I've got a video up on Zach Kuntz, and I freaking love this kid, man. Out of Old Dominion, 7th round pick. This isn't an exaggeration. He is the most athletic tight end to come out in the history of the NFL draft. He had the #1 RAS score of anyone to play the position since they've started measuring it. And on top of that, NFL statistics had him as like the 7th most athletic quarterback ever. So excited to see if he can get a go. It's tough for 7th round picks. It isn't easy, and he's just not going to walk in and make the roster. But his ability to stretch the field, his athleticism, he's got the hurdling background. I think he's super exciting, and I like Zach Kuntz. Jet Up New York is sticking with it. He said Q's going to get traded. I don't personally agree. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. If you think Quinnen Williams is going to get traded, I think he's going to get paid very, very quickly and get paid very, very handsomely. So that's my take on the Quinnen Williams one. Dean says exactly who was JD supposed to pay. Excuse me, talking about former picks. The Jets had no one to pay or extend other than Jamal Adams. but they made 100% the correct move moving on from Jamal. He didn't want to be here with the New York Jets. You don't need to pay a safety that volume of money, even though Seattle wants to get all the safeties on their roster. And he's right. Dean is correct, in my opinion. The Jets don't have a precedence there because there was no one there to pay. There was no one except for Leonard, and I still think they made a good move trading him away. Barney says, Luke, isn't European football, isn't there some XFL type league? Isn't any good? There is. Personally, I'm Australian, so I'm not from Europe, so it's not kind of my forte, but there are a few different leagues around. Speed Doctor says your breakdowns are literally a masterclass. Your football knowledge is impressive. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate the love. Dean's with me. He says Q will be paid 100%. I just can't see a world where the Jets let go of a guy who literally got Defensive Player of the Year votes. Quinnen Williams was third in Defensive Player of the Year voting behind, I think it was Micah Parsons, and obviously the eventual winner in Nick Bosa. Leroy says Aaron's super motivated. Again, circling back around to Aaron Rodgers, I completely agree. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. A guy I haven't talked about, I did a breakdown on him, but I haven't talked about him much, is Mecole Hardman. JW says he thinks he'll be a great gadget weapon and thinks Garrett will be a deep threat as well. Hardman's going to be interesting. He's going to get some of the design touches that you saw out of Elijah Moore and also out of Braxton Berrios, but he's just more explosive than that. I think he's a more explosive football player. He was fantastic on the jet sweep looks. Mecole Hardman last year, guys, had 6 touchdowns in his last 4 games of football in the regular season before he got hurt. This is a guy that can find the end zone. When they put him in motion, they got him free releases, got him gadget touches. He was dynamic, and hopefully he can have that success with the Jets and with Aaron Rodgers as well. So that's pretty exciting for me. I'll go through a couple more. And we'll finish off. Barney says, hit the like button. I appreciate you, man. Does a lot for the channel. Doesn't cost you any money. So make sure you like, you subscribe, and you check it out. Subscribe to the Play Like a Jet YouTube channel. If you haven't, Scott Mason does an amazing job on the podcast every single day. Scott is the man. Works his tail off to get interviews, bring you draft content. He's got things up on Izzy Abanikanda at the moment. So make sure you check Scott's out. Does great mailbag. Check out the Play Like a Jet podcast if you're not already, guys. I don't plug my own stuff and how well they're doing because that's not really my thing. I'm going to plug Scott right now. If you go on Chartable, looking at the top podcasts in the world, and you go at sports news in America, Play Like a Jet podcast is number 7 in the world right now. He is killing it. So make sure you show Scott some love as well. He is the man, okay? Maxi with a super chat. He's my guy. I'm in Queensland with him right now, so I appreciate you, brother. Absolute legend. Leroy says Davis is an expensive 3. He is. But a wide receiver 3 is an important role in today's NFL. For me, that has a bigger impact than a lot of number 3s on the depth chart, if that makes sense. And I think, $11 million is actually okay. Dean says Will McDonald IV is a finisher. He gets home. I couldn't agree more. Jets are going to be in the lead more. They're going to be throwing the ball. Sorry, the team they're playing will be throwing the ball more. And that's going to be a huge win for these guys. And Will McDonald can definitely get after the quarterback. Go watch Corey Davis college and highlight tape from the Titans. With a good quarterback, he will be a good number 2. Rich says, Jet up. Rich, I appreciate you. Another guy who always supports the channel. Thanks for joining into the stream. Absolute legends, guys. I appreciate every single one of you being here. There's a million comments going on. Dean with a super chat. Are we signing a center field safety before training camp? I'm going to end it about here. I think this is a perfect way to end this stream. The safety position is my last real concern. It is. I have questions about the fact that Whitehead is a strong safety. Clark is a huge upgrade over Joyner, but he's not a free safety. He is, again, a strong safety who can play linebacker in the box and nickelbacker on third down. I think the Jets need a guy. Is it Buda Baker? Is it a guy like Bayard out of the Titans? Do they think they need to upgrade that largely? Possibly. Maybe that's where this big money move comes, is signing a safety. So I'm interested to see how that goes. I appreciate the super chat, Gene. You're a legend, and we'll see how that unfolds. But I'd like to see the Jets get a safety. Guys, I appreciate everyone popping in. I'm going to try and do this more frequently and regularly. I got to jump out now. Got some things to do on my holiday. So thank you very much for coming in, for watching the live and for joining us to talk a little bit of Jets football. Try and do this once a week, as I said, at Jet Up New York. Appreciate you, man. Check out the film videos. If you do nothing else, watch those, support the channel. I love every single one of you. Thank you, Rich. I appreciate the kind words. Guys, I'll catch you soon. We'll do a live again next week, and we'll hear from you then. Peace out, guys.